a fat goose suddenly crashed into the old lady's feet. Then it suddenly hit itself to death. This left the old lady stunned. She couldn't believe that in this year of famine, such a fat and tasty goose appeared, and the goose even came right to her doorstep. Before she could finish her thought, a school of fish suddenly swam past her in the river. Soon, large carp began to leap into her back basket. The neighbor ant stood there, dumbfounded. She had spent the whole day fishing by the river, but in this year of disaster, even tadpoles were almost gone. She never expected that as soon as the old lady arrived, the fish would jump into her basket all by themselves. The neighbor ant felt a mix of jealousy and disbelief. What she didn't know was, the old lady was so lucky because she had always been kind-hearted. Earlier, the old lady had found an abandoned baby girl in the mountains. Though her family was already struggling financially, the old lady decided to take the baby home and adopt her. What she didn't know was, the girl was a blessing from the heavens. The baby sensed the old lady's kindness, and so she used her magical powers. Muttering a few words, suddenly, flowers began to emerge from the river. A large number of fish jumped up, directly landing in the old lady's back basket. Even a wild goose walked up and fainted beside her. Not long after, the old lady returned home with her catch, but as soon as she arrived, the neighbor ant and her son stopped her. It turned out the neighbor ant was jealous of the old lady's haul, and openly bullied the old lady, knowing she had no sons to back her up. This was because the old lady's 3 sons, one was missing, one was crippled, and the other was mentally disabled. Even the daughter-in-law had not gotten pregnant. Although the eldest son heard this, he couldn't help because of his lame leg. While feeling helpless, suddenly a golden light entered his body. Instantly, he was restored to full health. Seeing the old lady about to be pushed down, he rushed over. Seeing this scene, the old lady cried tears of joy when she saw the big goose in the hands of her son. The eldest son was no longer polite. He immediately knocked both of them to the ground. Seeing that the old lady now had someone to back her up, the neighbor ant and her son hurriedly left. Just then, the eldest daughter-in-law came out. Seeing her husband restored to health, the whole family was ecstatic. However, just as everyone was immersed in joy, the village chief rushed over excitedly, saying the old lady's sheep, which hadn't given birth for 7 years, had finally had a lamb. Everyone rushed over to see. The series of miraculous events stunned the family, and they began to see the baby girl as a blessing star. At this moment, the old lady suddenly thought of her mentally disabled second son. She immediately told her eldest son to send some lamb meat to him tomorrow. Thinking about how her second son was always bullied by his co-workers, the old lady couldn't help but shed tears. At this moment, the baby sensed that the second son actually had a noble destiny, so she waved her small hand, and the previously mentally disabled second son instantly became smart. He even saved the factory owner's daughter, who was about to be crushed. It turned out the factory owner's daughter had been called in to repair imported machines, but the manual was all in German. Just when everyone was at a loss, the second son took the manual and said he could read it. Seeing the mocking expressions of others, he actually read it fluently. Then, with his help, the machine was quickly fixed. At this moment, the eldest brother came to visit. Seeing this, he was overjoyed. He never expected that the girl they had just found would bring such big changes to the family. He immediately prepared to tell the old lady the good news. However, when he arrived home, he saw his mother-in-law pushing his wife to the ground. Seeing this,